Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we're looking at a Kramer and Kiesling classic filler game, Evergreen. Evergreen is a family board game featuring commodity speculation mechanics. Designed by the acclaimed game designer duo, Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. Initially published by Goldschieber Spiele in 1999, with artwork by Franz Vohwinkel. The game was later picked up by Rio Grande Games for an English release the same year. It accommodates 2 to 6 players and takes around 20 minutes to play. In Evergreen, players take on the role of concert organizers, using their influence cards to obligate artists to appear at their concerts. The amount an organizer earns for a concert depends on how many artists perform and their popularity. If an artist has a hit record at the time of the concert, even more money can be earned. Each player must organize 3 concerts and participate in a final concert by managing influence cards wisely. A player can earn more than the others and win the game. Let's see how the game is played, and I'll give you my final thoughts afterwards. Each player is dealt a hand of 13 influence cards face down. Depending on the number of players, certain valued influence cards may be removed from the game. Place all 7 discs in the center of the table so all can see them. Position the small disc on the 6 artist discs so that the tone arm points to the value 5. Position the small disc on the hit record disc so that the tone arm points to the orange space with the icon of a record. Players select 3 influence cards from their hands and place them face down on the table. Once all players have made their selections, they reveal their cards simultaneously. Each player arranges their 3 cards side by side, representing their influence on the artists. The player with the lowest total value of their face-up influence cards becomes the starting player, taking the hit record disc and sand clock from the center of the table. The starting player then distributes the artist's discs based on who has the highest influence for each artist. Player turn summary. 1. Turn the sand clock. At the beginning of their turn, the player flips the sand clock. They must finish their turn before the timer runs out. 2. Play influence cards. Players must play 1 to 3 influence cards each turn, which can be placed on any player's display. Each display can only hold 3 influence cards. After playing each card, it should be placed to completely cover the underlying card, which has no further impact in the game. The player then announces any changes in influence and moves the corresponding artist's disc to the player with the highest influence. Whenever a disc is moved, the player must adjust the new value on the disc itself by rotating it counterclockwise to the next value. It is possible for a disc to go from 12 to 5 too. 3. Changing the hit record. After playing influence cards, the player may adjust the hit record disc 1 space to the right or left to indicate which artist currently has a hit record. 4. Holding a concert. At the end of their turn, the player decides whether to hold a concert. Each player may hold only 3 concerts and must participate in the final concert. One of these 4 concerts can be designated as a gala concert, allowing the player to double their points for that concert. Once a player decides to hold a concert, the sand timer is no longer considered. Points are scored by adding the values of all artist discs the player has. If one of those artists has the current hit record, the score is doubled before being added to the total. 5. End of a player's turn. After the player finishes their turn, they pass the sand clock and hit record disc to the player on their left. Notes: if a player has not played an influence card, by the time the sand clock runs out, their right-hand neighbor randomly selects a card from the player's hand and places it on the middle card in front of the slow player. This may result in an influence change, prompting the usual movement of discs. The player's turn then ends immediately, and they forfeit the opportunity to hold a concert. Game end. The game concludes when the last player plays their final influence card. After that player's turn, the final concert is held. Final concert. The final concert is conducted just like a regular concert, But the hit record disc does not double an artist's score. Each disc counts only its value. Final scoring. Players sum up all of their points from the concerts they have held. The player with the most total points is declared the winner. Let me start by saying that Evergreen is seriously and criminally underrated. Keep in mind that this game came out in the same year that the game designer duo released Tikal, one of my all-time favorite games. So Evergreen was either compared with Tikal or was completely overshadowed by Tikal's overwhelming success. Evergreen is a family filler board game while Tikal is a strategy Euro game, so you have to compare apples to apples here. The negative reviews for Evergreen didn't help either. Evergreen is not for every player, just like any other game. There is no one game that fits everyone's preference. In Evergreen, the game uses a 1-minute sand timer for each player's turn, so each player will have to pre-plan their moves in this style of gameplay. The records will probably constantly shifting around the table as players battle it out in a tug-of-war style to secure the valuable high-scoring records by playing their influence cards. The gameplay is very dynamic and tactical, and on your turn, you can't shake the feeling of being rushed by the sand timer. It's essential to pre-plan your moves and remain engaged throughout the game to monitor record shifts and strategize when to manipulate the influence cards for maximum scoring potential. Evergreen is a thinky game, so players who like to take their time on their turns might not enjoy this aspect, which is another reason it wasn't very well received. This game is also not for players who dislike mean games. It can get quite cutthroat, especially when someone disrupts your tableau of influence cards. Lastly, the game shines best at 4 players, but also works well with 5 or 6, though it may become chaotic with the inclusion of high-valued influence cards. I would only play this game at 4 to 6 player count, and not at 2 or 3 player count. This was yet another issue revolving around the negative reception about this game. The gameplay is wild and chaotic, with records constantly shifting. Players must keep an eye on all the cards being played to find the right moment to use their perfect influence cards. Evergreen is a fantastic filler game that I truly enjoy, always bringing fun to the table for players who appreciate this style of board game. The artwork in the game is fantastic, very vibrant and eye-catching. The illustrations by Franz Vohwinkel are superb, and the iconography is well designed, making the game accessible for both left-handed and right-handed players, as well as colorblind players. The components used were varied. The cards are of standard quality but shuffle nicely and feel good in hand. The records are visually appealing and function well, making them easy to assemble and use. The sand timer is standard, though mine has aged a bit and sometimes needs a gentle nudge to get going. The game box includes a basic graphic insert that looks nice, and all components fit snugly back in the box, even with sleeved cards. In summary, Evergreen is a charming and engaging family board game that masterfully combines tactical decision-making with dynamic and ever-changing gameplay experience. Its vibrant artwork and thoughtful design make it accessible to a wide audience. While it may not appeal to everyone, especially those who prefer slower-paced games or dislike competitive interactions, its fast-paced nature and strategic depth offer an exciting challenge for players who embrace a more cutthroat environment. With its unique mechanics and the thrill of managing influence over artists, Evergreen stands out as a delightful filler game that constantly brings fun to the table. Whether you're looking to introduce new players to the genre or seeking a lively game night with friends, Evergreen is a title worth exploring. Its underrated status is a mystery, and it deserves more recognition for the enjoyment it brings to the board gaming enthusiasts. If you appreciate tactical gameplay with a touch of chaos, Evergreen is sure to be a hit in your collection. I'm starting to share hidden gem games from my collection, so be sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on today's game. Until next time, take care. Peace.